So how are you going to read the RFP? I'm going to toggle between the slides and the RFP itself to show you the examples. So whether traditionally set up or not, you don't read an RFP like a book from the start to end. Like task order packages on IDIQ contracts, right? So, and other types of RFPs, they have sections with the same functions. The first section you really need to look for are instructions. Instructions are going to be in multiple places, but the first one is going to be on section A, which is the cover, and the L, which is the actual instructions section. You're going to look for the evaluation criteria, which is typically section M. In some cases, like GSA, for example, combines instructions and eval criteria. It makes it a lot more convenient to actually have them combined. Otherwise, you're going to have to figure out how to combine them yourself. And then there's the statement of work, which is section C or J, which is the attachments. Could be coming in a separate file, could be in the same file as the RFP, and any other sections afterwards, right? So you start reading with the order above first, and then M, C, J or equivalents, and then you read the rest. So here is the alphabetical RFP setup, right? So A is standard offer form, B supplies services and prices, C description, specifications, performance, work statement, D is packaging and marking, how you're going to package things, right? E is how they're going to inspect and accept your deliveries. F is deliveries or performance, where you're going to deliver your stuff and how you're going to perform. G is contract administrative data, lots of FAR clauses. H is special contracts requirements. You'll see some interesting sections that are applicable to your proposal there, like key personnel, for example, is hidden in there, organizational conflict of interest, any kind of contract clauses. Then you have J, attachments, which is a flexible section designation. K is reps inserts. That is something that you fill out with government check boxes. L is instructions, and M is the eval criteria. So let me show you how that typically works, right? So here's a very old RFP. This is the cover, section A. So what you will see here on the cover is you see the solicitation number, right? What is it? Negotiated RFP instead of sealed bid, right? In construction, you'll see sealed bids a lot. Date issued, and you will have number of pages, and you'll have who is it issued by, right? So this is the customer. And then they'll tell you what to give you. 6 copies. So as you can see, this is instructions received and or hand carried, and they tell you where. Block 7, they want you to carry it right here to this repository until, here's a deadline for 30 p.m. on 28 March. Here, what you have next is the point of contact, right? So call information is Ralph Kaminsky, phone number, email, right? Oops, I don't want to email Ralph. So, and then we have different sections. See how it has crosses, like they actually omitted section D, then it has crosses for all the sections, and they give you page numbers for these different sections, so you know where things are. So you have a little table of contents there. See how it says 11 table of contents? That's what it is. You can actually navigate the RFP very easily this way. And then there's all kinds of different forms for you to fill out. So you have discount for prompt payment if you're going to give them one, acknowledgement of amendments. You can actually put amendment number and date. There is the name and address of the offerer. That's where you put your cage code. You put your company name, your address, name and title of the person authorized to sign offer. You're going to type it up here, and here's where you sign. That's where you date it. That's where you put your phone number, and if you have a different address, you put it in here. So this is what you have to type in when you submit your proposal. You actually sign this form, and then when the government awards the contract to you, then they sign this part of the form, right? So, and then when you receive it back, it means you got the award, right? So that's what you need to do. And with every proposal submission, you're going to have to fill that out and make sure that you do this. Another really important section is section B, supplies of services and prices. This is where the government, in addition to the cost proposal instructions that they give you in the instructions, they actually go ahead and give you like a sheet that's got like description of what they want you to include here. And then you need to go ahead and give them the price right here. Estimated cost, fixed fee, total estimated cost plus fee, and goes in this line. You're going to have to type that in, fill that in the PDF format, or convert it into Word and fill it into the Word format and submit it with your cost volume. Because it may be completely different from how they've told you to fill out your cost volume, and those numbers may not add up. So give yourself time at the end to calculate this. Look at it very early on. Otherwise, you'll be scrambling at the last minute, realizing you never did the math the same way. So it is kind of a different way to do it. And then you have the statement of work, which is section C. And that is where they tell you what the job actually is, right? So, and you need to look through that very carefully, because some statements of work will have the descriptions of the positions, and sometimes they don't have the description of the positions, maybe elsewhere, right? So, and they have all kinds of different rules and deliverables. Sometimes you have deliverables separately, sometimes you have it here. So they will tell you different things here that you need to look at very closely. And now that you get through, and sorry for making you nauseous, the statement of work, you actually are going to go into the clauses. And there's going to be all kinds of contractual stuff. And then as you can see, there's inspection and acceptance, quality, so they skip D. As you saw on the cover, but then they go into E, inspection acceptance. They actually have a quality assurance surveillance plan. How are they going to go ahead and look at things, right? So, and they actually give you different performance objectives, standard performance threshold, method surveillance, and what those are, right? So this is really, really important. You're going to have to take that into consideration when you tell your story, how you're going to leave those acceptance inspections term, right? So now you have, let's see here, we got section F, deliveries of performance. They're actually going to tell you where you're going to perform. And then section G, contract administration data. This is a lot of contractual stuff. You need to read it very carefully, because as you know, the federal acquisition regulations do not apply to government contractors. The federal acquisition regulations apply to contracting officers. So this is basically the different contractual clauses. You want to make sure that you look through it very carefully, read each one, make sure you're not in violation of any of that. And you cannot take exceptions to what the government provides to you contractually, so you have to accept it. So even though they tell you, well, take exceptions, that's a trap, guys. Don't ever fall into that. So section H is special contract requirements, and that is where you look at different, as I told you, interesting things that may apply to you very directly, which is conflict of interest, what precludes you from bidding possibly, and any kind of key personnel. Here they don't have key personnel, they just have the conflict of interest piece. Section I is contract clauses, and again, you need to really pay attention to that. Those are, some of them are included by reference, meaning that, and what's really important is pay attention to the date of the clause, because those change all the time, and whatever the clause said at the time and whatever is entered in your contract is what applies. If you actually have a contracting officer change the date retroactively on your clause, that's not a good thing. They shouldn't be doing that, right? So because your contract is what you've signed, and they shouldn't be changing that unilaterally without your agreement, and making sure that it doesn't impact you. And if it impacts you, then you need to be getting some sort of an equitable adjustment, and it means money to you. So that's, lots of clauses here that are being referenced. A lot of times they reference clauses that contradict each other or shouldn't be applying to this kind of contract, because, all of federal regulations, again, don't apply to you. Only specific things in them that are put in your contract do. So you have to really be careful and Google all of these different clauses, and it's very, very simple to Google the clause and pay attention to what is the date of that clause, right? So the way that you do it is you literally copy this number, and there are a couple of places to look for that. So acquisition.gov is where you look things up, and you can go ahead and search for that clause, right? And it will actually, this is a DFARS clause, Defense Federal Acquisitions for Department of Defense, and acquisition of commercial items. So like there's different places where they used it, so you'll have to see what it is that they're referencing specifically, and you can actually search here. And there's always different federal acquisition regulations that are drilling down to specific agencies' guidance, and you can actually search through these on this one portal and see what they are looking at. So this is prohibition of storage of toxic and hazardous materials. So you can also look for that clause, or you can just simply put that clause in the browser, and actually it will take you to the right place too. Now, section J is a list of documents that have been attached to the RFP. So so then you have basically the, let's see here, monthly reports. So there's a procedural contract data requirements list attachments, and they have past performance questionnaire. You have cost proposal spreadsheet, and then definitions, right? So you have different attachments here. They're going to be separate files. Section K is representations, certifications, and other statements of the offer. That is a section you typically submit with your proposal, right? And with your proposal means that, you know, that they actually will say that this is old, right? So that there's no longer Orca. It used to be like a whale called the Orca, and that website has been rolled into SAM.gov. And SAM.gov now has all of your reps and certs, and they have to be current. But a lot of the times, you know, so they will tell you, hey, you know, if you have yours current, you don't have to submit, or they don't care that you have yours current on SAM.gov. You will have to submit, and because they've changed it, right? So it's different from the way that the SAM.gov has it. So don't be surprised, because some people assume incorrectly that they don't have to submit it because everything is current on SAM. Unless the government tells you that that's the case, then submit it for sure, right? Because they may be a little bit different. And so here, what they have is a lot of different, just basically goes on and on and on and on text, right? And on occasion, there'll be these things for you to fill out and check. And you have to kind of go through that and read all of that. And then there's going to be little places where you're going to have to fill things out. You will submit that. If they tell you signed section K, that means there's no place for signature. You're going to have to add the little spot for signature yourself and sign it. And then you're going to have to scan it or whatever, PDF it, and include with your proposal. If they don't tell you where to put it in your proposal, you may add it as a separate file when you're submitting electronically, or put it with your cost proposal or contractual proposal. Then the next section that we have here are the proposal submission instructions. So, okay, grab my tea. So proposal submission instructions are basically the cover letter here, technical approach, past performance, and cost and price. First, they will go ahead and summarize what it is that you need to go ahead and submit, and that's going to be sort of your first task. But then after that, you're going to have more and more drilling down into the different details that are basically going to be required, right? So it's kind of layers of information. First, they tell you the setup for the proposal. Then they're going to tell you more details about the files, right, and how they want it. And then they're going to drill down and tell you what is the font size. may tell you where to submit the proposal, right? So tell you how many pages and copies there are. As you can see, there's number of copies. There's page limit. So this is for physical submission. For electronic, you typically don't have different copies. So specific instructions by volume, this is where you're going to get into real instructions here, and that's where we're going to go into greater detail. So let's go back to our slide deck and look at the fact that not every section is important to creating an outline for your proposal. Sections that are important for outlining is everything that instructors dictate to include in the proposal. Instructions tell you to put it in, you put it in. You cannot deviate from that. Everything that will be evaluated. So if you have in a section M evaluation criteria, if something is listed, then you must put it in.